I've been thinking a lot about this first sort of month and a few days of the new administration. And we recently did a segment about how Donald Trump has made very little impact on policy so far. Most of his executive orders are sort of symbolic statements of preference by the White House. The real tangible action that he took, the Muslim majority country immigration ban, was struck down in court. And some federal government direction here and there, directing agencies to act more in this way or that way, and that does matter. But the Obamacare repeal is really, really, really far from happening. A replacement is even further away. And I'm coming to realize, and so is Ramesh Ponnuru, who wrote an interesting article about this in Bloomberg, that Donald Trump is showing himself to be basically a weak president. And by the way, Ramesh Ponnuru is an editor for the conservative National Review magazine, a visiting fellow at the conservative American Enterprise Institute. Our previous presidents accomplished way more during their first month in office. And you can't argue that this is because Trump has to fight the House and Senate, because Republicans have the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. There's really no reason that Trump would have accomplished almost nothing other than the symbolic nonsense that I've been talking about, and his attempts at authoritarian decrees, other than the reality that he's just weak and fumbling around and completely disorganized in terms of his administration. Put aside the orders and the decrees, there has been no major legislation, period, from Donald Trump. He's been in office for over a month now. At this point in George W. Bush's presidency, when he had been president for about a month, he already had outlined a major tax plan that he was about to sign into law. We're still waiting to see if and what Donald Trump's tax plan is going to be. He flaunted that the entire campaign, supposedly a major issue that he would act on quickly. A month into President Obama's presidency, he had already signed 3 laws that were monumental to his presidency. You had the stimulus package, the program to expand children's health care, and the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act. Now, you might hate those things. You might say those were bad ideas, but they are real things that were done. Trump is nowhere near having made any impact. And after his first day in office, Think Progress had already counted on 34 campaign promises that he had backed off of. He has still signed no major legislation. We've heard nothing about any plans to reform taxes, healthcare, or infrastructure in ways that are actually actionable. Trump is just weak, isn't he?
I think he just doesn't really understand how government works. I mean, a lot of politics is getting into the nitty gritty, and maybe he just thinks that Republicans in Congress will take care of these things for him. But if you want to get what you want passed, I mean, you have to be involved in the process and use the bully pulpit. He's just turning around to Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and saying, why can't you just do it for me?
Well, that may be true with legislation, but it goes even further because Donald Trump is also indicated to be really just a weakling. He's way behind past presidents in even filling appointments and hiring people for his administration. You'd think he would have worked that stuff out before the election or during the transition period. Again, you've got Republicans running the show. There's no reason why there should be so many positions still open more than a month into his presidency, more than 3 months beyond Election Day. Yes, Senate Democrats have pushed back against some nominations, but this is an issue of organization, of administration, and of will to move forward. And Trump is scrambling and struggling to do just the basic things that new presidents need to do. Meanwhile, he's taking weekly vacations at the cost of about 12 times more than what President Obama was spending on travel. He doesn't seem to be taking control of his White House, which is in disarray. We've talked about it being basically unclear who's actually calling the shots there. He's got these overbearing and overwhelmingly in control advisors, also achieving nothing. And in general, Trump's not a leader. He's really just not taking a leadership role. And we'll talk about polling on this a little bit later. You need to do something at some point. And Trump has the reputation for being this domineering authoritarian, and in rhetoric, he absolutely is. He's of the most authoritarian rhetoric of any recent president, but in a lot of ways, he's proving himself to be impotent when it comes to action.
Well, with regards to his cabinet picks, I think some of them were just so far out there that even Republicans couldn't get behind them. Two Republicans voted against Betsy DeVos for education secretary,
Yeah.
and then Andrew Puzder wasn't even going to stand a chance because of
Oh,
all the
absolutely.
skeletons in his past. So maybe he'll take a lesson from this and become more moderate.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Trump's going to learn something. That requires humility. You know where Trump actually crushes Obama in terms of productivity? Scandals. Trump had more scandals between Election Day and Inauguration Day than Obama had in 8 years. Trump has had more scandals and embarrassments in the first 34 days in office than Obama had in 8 years. Quite the overachiever there. How can any Trumpist honestly look at the situation and say Trump is anything but just a weakling, impotent figurehead sitting there in the Oval Office?